What's the closest you've ever come to cheating, and why didn't you go through with it? I've been with Michael for 7 years, and on paper, we're the kind of couple that makes people believe in stability. He's kind, reliable, good at remembering to pay bills on time, always texts me when he's on his way home, never yells, never cheats, never lies. To anyone looking from the outside in, we're a picture of healthy, adult commitment, the sort of love that doesn't burn out because it never burns too bright in the first place. But if I'm being honest, somewhere along the line, something essential went missing, and I don't know exactly when it happened. Maybe it was gradual, like the way you don't notice you're losing your hearing until someone points out the silence. What I do know is that these days, when Michael kisses me, it feels like muscle memory. When he touches me in bed, which is rare and only ever on Saturdays, it's more out of obligation than desire. We don't fight, but we don't laugh much either. We've become polite strangers living parallel lives under one roof, each quietly carrying our loneliness like it's a badge of honor. I've tried to fix it. I've read the books, brought up intimacy during late-night talks, suggested weekend getaways and date nights and even couples therapy, but everything gets brushed off with that same exhausted smile, like he's already decided this is as good as it gets and I should be grateful. And maybe I should be. Maybe this is what long-term love looks like: predictable, steady, safe. But safety starts to feel like a cage when your skin begins to forget what it's like to be wanted. I don't remember the last time Michael looked at me like he couldn't wait to undress me. I don't remember the last time I felt beautiful around him. And the worst part is, I've started to forget how it feels to want him too. I lie to my friends when they ask if we're still happy. I smile and say yes when they ask if we're thinking about marriage, and then I go home and wash the dishes in silence while he watches TV from the other room. Sometimes I stand in front of the bathroom mirror late at night and stare at myself, wondering when exactly my body became invisible. Wondering if I did something wrong, or if I'm just one of those women who ends up being loved in theory, but never truly desired. I tell myself that this is just a phase, that all couples go through dry spells, that things will get better if I just hold on a little longer. But a voice in the back of my mind whispers what I don't want to admit: maybe this is just who we are now. And maybe I'm not okay with that anymore. Liam started working at the agency about 3 months after my last serious attempt to rekindle intimacy with Michael had quietly failed, the kind of failure that doesn't explode, it just fades into silence like everything else between us, and at first, he was just the new guy, a bit too confident, maybe a little too relaxed in meetings, but harmless in that way younger coworkers often are when they haven't been crushed yet by the weight of workplace politics. I didn't pay much attention to him at first. I was focused on keeping my head down, getting through the days, managing deadlines and pretending I wasn't aching in a way I couldn't name. But Liam had this energy to him, playful, observant, always just on the edge of inappropriate without ever crossing the line. He noticed things. Not just about work, but about people. About me. Like how he pointed out on a random Tuesday morning that I always twisted the ring on my finger when I was anxious, or how he caught that I always skipped lunch when I was on tight deadlines and started bringing an extra sandwich just in case. At first, it felt harmless, sweet, even. Attention I hadn't felt in a long time. But then came the way he looked at me. Not just glanced. Looked. Like I was a mystery he wanted to solve with his hands. Like I was something worth watching. The kind of look I hadn't seen in years. The kind Michael used to give me when we were new and still falling, before routines took the place of wanting. I tried to ignore it. I reminded myself that I was in a relationship, that this was just a phase, that Liam was younger and probably flirted with everyone, that I was reading too much into everything. But my body didn't care about logic. My skin started reacting before my mind did. My breath would catch when he stood too close, when his fingers brushed mine passing papers, when he leaned over my shoulder to explain something and his voice was warm in my ear. I started thinking about him at home. In the shower. In bed next to Michael. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. I started wearing lipstick to work again, curling my hair in the mornings, putting on that blouse that dipped just low enough to make me feel like I still had power. I caught Liam noticing. He didn't say anything, but the way his gaze dipped and returned told me enough. He felt it too. The tension. The question that neither of us dared ask out loud. One afternoon, we got stuck alone in a conference room after a meeting ran late. It was quiet. The lights were dim. I was packing up my laptop when he said, casually, "You seem different lately." I laughed it off, but he didn't. He stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough. And then he said it, "I think about you. More than I probably should." My mouth went dry. My heart raced. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. And in that moment, I knew that if I said one wrong word, we would both fall into something we couldn't undo. Instead, I picked up my things and left the room without looking back, pretending like my knees weren't shaking, pretending like I wasn't on fire. That night, I sat next to Michael on the couch while he scrolled through his phone and I pretended to watch a movie, and all I could think about was Liam's voice, Liam's eyes, Liam's hands. And for the first time, I didn't just feel guilty, I felt alive. I kept telling myself that what happened in the conference room was just a moment, just a slip in a week full of exhaustion and emotional chaos, just harmless flirting that wouldn't survive the weight of real-world consequences, but the problem was, it didn't go away. If anything, it got louder. After that day, Liam and I didn't talk about what he said, but something shifted between us, a low hum of electricity that buzzed just under the surface of every glance, every interaction. He no longer flirted openly, instead, it was more subtle. A lingering pause after saying my name. The way he'd wait just long enough for me to pass him in the hallway so our arms would brush. The way he'd hold eye contact a fraction too long during meetings, like daring me to say something, anything, to acknowledge that the line between us had already blurred. I started waking up thinking about him. I'd find myself reaching for my phone to text him something innocuous, then stopping, fingers frozen over the screen. At night, lying next to Michael, I'd stare at the ceiling wondering if Liam was thinking about me too. And then came the happy hour. Just a casual teen outing, nothing unusual, drinks at a rooftop bar, everyone laughing, decompressing from another week of client nonsense. Michael was out of town visiting his sister, so I had no excuse not to go. I wore a black dress that hugged me just right, not for anyone in particular, but I noticed the way Liam's eyes widened a little when he saw me. He played it cool, always does. But I could feel the heat every time he was near. As the night wore on and coworkers slowly started peeling off, heading home or disappearing into their rideshares, Liam and I ended up alone at the bar. I remember the music was just loud enough to drown out most conversations but soft enough for us to hear each other without shouting. I was tipsy, not drunk, but that warm, floaty kind of buzz that makes everything feel slow and soft. He ordered me one last drink. Whiskey and ginger. My favorite. I didn't remember telling him that. We talked about nothing, TV shows, travel, terrible clients, but every word felt like a test, every smile like a breadcrumb leading to something neither of us had the courage to name. At one point, he leaned in to say something and his hand brushed my thigh under the bar. Just a second. Just skin against skin. But it was enough. My breath hitched. He pulled back like he hadn't meant to do it, but his eyes told the truth. And then he asked, casually, "You want to get out of here?" My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear myself say yes. The cab ride was quiet. Tense. My pulse roared in my ears. I should have said no. I should have stopped this. I should have remembered Michael. But all I could think about was Liam's hand on my leg, Liam's voice in my ear. His apartment was clean, sparse, dimly lit. We didn't talk. We just stood there for a beat too long, then moved toward each other like magnets, slow at first, then suddenly fast, messy, urgent. When he kissed me, I felt something break open inside me, something I didn't know had been locked for years. His hands were everywhere, mine just as frantic. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was hunger. Months of built-up tension pouring out all at once. He pushed me up against the wall, and I let him. I wanted him. God, I wanted him so badly. His mouth on my neck, his fingers slipping under the hem of my dress, my nails digging into his shoulders, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in so long. But then. It happened. In the middle of it, somewhere between his hand under my shirt and my gasp echoing against the hallway wall, I froze. Just like that. My body remembered. My heart screamed. Michael's face flashed in my mind, and it wasn't guilt exactly, it was sadness. Grief. Because in that moment, I realized I didn't want to be the kind of person who crossed that line, even if every cell in my body was screaming for me to do it. I pushed Liam back gently, breathless, heart racing. He looked confused. I shook my head. I can't, I whispered. My voice broke. He stepped back immediately, hands raised, nodding like he understood, but the tension in his jaw said he didn't. I'm sorry, I said, even though I wasn't sure who I was apologizing to, him, myself, or Michael. I grabbed my bag, fled the apartment, and didn't stop walking until I was 2 blocks away. The air felt cold. My body felt foreign. And my heart felt like it had been split cleanly in two. The days after Liam and I almost crossed the line felt like living inside a hollow version of my life, like everything looked the same on the surface but had been stripped of meaning underneath. I went to work, I answered emails, I had lunch with co-workers, but there was this ringing silence in my chest that made every conversation feel like it was happening underwater. Liam didn't speak to me after that night. Not a word. Not even a casual good morning in passing, like we were strangers now, or worse, like I was invisible. Part of me understood. I had pulled him in, lit the match, and then walked away the second the flame caught. He had every right to be angry, confused, hurt. But what he didn't understand, what I didn't even fully understand myself, was that I hadn't stopped because I didn't want him. I stopped because I wanted him too much, and I knew that if I let myself go all the way, there would be no returning to the life I had carefully constructed with Michael, no climbing back into that safe, quiet shell of routine and pretense. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake next to Michael, staring at the ceiling, my back turned to him while he snored softly beside me, unaware that the woman in his bed had almost been unfaithful in every way but the technical. It wasn't just the kiss or the hands or the breathless gasps, it was the intention. I had wanted to cheat. Fully. Completely. If I hadn't stopped myself, I would have done it. And that knowledge sat in my chest like a stone. Michael noticed something was off, of course. He asked if I was stressed at work. I said yes. He offered to make me tea, rubbed my shoulders one night while we watched a movie, kissed my forehead like that was enough to fix me. And for the first time, I didn't feel comforted by his gestures. I felt numb. I started flinching when he touched me. Not because I didn't love him, but because I didn't know what love meant anymore in the context of what I had almost done. There was a moment, one night, when he reached for me in bed, tentative, hopeful. I froze. I turned off the lamp and pretended to be asleep. And in the silence, I could hear his disappointment like it was a living thing crawling between us. I stopped wearing makeup to work. Stopped trying to look nice. Stopped talking much at all. I just coasted. The guilt wasn't what ate at me, it was the confusion. How could I love Michael and still want Liam? How could I crave someone else so deeply when the man I shared my life with hadn't technically done anything wrong? The answer came in the form of absence. Michael had stopped seeing me long before Liam did. Somewhere in those 7 years, I had become part of the furniture, reliable and unchanging. I don't blame him entirely. I had stopped demanding more. I had convinced myself that comfort was enough. That longevity equaled passion. But Liam made me feel alive again, even if only for a moment. And now that I had tasted that electricity, the quiet of my old life was unbearable. The worst part? I missed Liam more than I expected to. Not just the idea of him, but him, the way he looked at me, the curiosity in his eyes, the way he listened like my thoughts were something worth hearing. I missed being wanted. I missed the possibility of more. But I never reached out. I couldn't. Because what would I say? Sorry I let you touch my soul and then walked away? No. Some things are better left broken. I buried it all, the heat and the ache and the almosts. I folded it into the version of myself Michael still believed in. I cooked dinner. I texted my mom. I paid bills. I was a good partner. On the surface, nothing had changed. But underneath? Everything had. And I didn't know how long I could keep pretending that the life I was living was still one I chose. I didn't leave Michael in a dramatic blaze of confession or confrontation. I didn't tell him about Liam, didn't scream that I felt invisible, didn't cry or throw plates or beg him to see me again the way he used to. No, when it finally ended, it ended quietly, in a way that almost felt too soft for the weight of what it meant. It was a Tuesday morning. I remember that clearly. He was getting ready for work, buttoning his shirt, humming to himself like he always did, and I was standing by the window with a cup of coffee, watching the sun rise and realizing, for the first time, that I didn't want to watch it from this apartment anymore. When he kissed me goodbye and said, "I'll see you tonight," I just nodded. That night, I told him we needed to talk. I didn't mention Liam. I didn't need to. The betrayal wasn't about another man, it was about the years of quiet detachment, about how I had stopped feeling like a woman and started feeling like a fixture. I told him the truth, that I didn't feel desired anymore, that I couldn't remember the last time I felt like he saw me, really saw me, not just as his partner, not just as his habit, but as someone he wanted. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just sat there, staring at his hands, nodding occasionally. And that, more than anything, confirmed that I was doing the right thing. If you can tell someone you're leaving and they don't fight to keep you, they already lost you a long time ago. I moved out 2 weeks later. No begging, no bargaining. We divided things peacefully, like two people finalizing a business arrangement instead of ending a love story. I kept the bookshelves. He kept the bed. We didn't hug goodbye. We just stopped. For a while after that, I felt numb. Not regretful, not relieved, just quiet. Like I had stepped off a moving train and was still learning how to stand again. I didn't call Liam. I never planned to. That story ended the second I walked out of his apartment, breathless and shaking. I don't know if he ever thought about me again. Maybe he moved on. Maybe he was just a spark that lit a fire I had been too afraid to start on my own. Either way, I wasn't looking for him. I was looking for myself. And that took time. It took long walks and awkward dates and nights where I cried over nothing at all. It took therapy. It took remembering how to touch my own skin like it belonged to me. It took forgiving myself for what I almost did and then for what I didn't. I used to think that loving someone meant staying. Now I know that sometimes, loving yourself means leaving, even if you don't have anywhere else to go. People assume that if there wasn't infidelity, the breakup must have been unnecessary. But what they don't understand is that sometimes, the absence of love is a louder betrayal than anything physical. Michael was a good man. He just wasn't my man anymore. I'll always care about him in the way you care about a book you once loved, but can never read again. And Liam? He was the question that reminded me I still had answers to find. I haven't fallen in love again since. But I've started feeling like someone who deserves it when it finally comes. And maybe that's the most honest ending I can give you. I didn't cheat. But I was ready to. And that readiness taught me everything I needed to know about who I was, what I wanted, and why I had to walk away before I forgot myself completely.